Every time we visited, I couldn't wait to gaze on it once again. Pop-Pop's place was filled with what I called old people trinkets, knickknacks, figurines, little statues, and all sorts of souvenirs that Pop-Pop had picked up here and there throughout his life. For us kids, these constituted a kind of toy store. Rows of interesting objects that we could take down, play with on the rug in the living room, and use to create worlds and armies and stories about the lives of make-believe people. Hours of fun. I'm not sure whether we ever realized to what extent these toys represented real memories of the years through which Pop-Pop had actually lived. My grandfather was born in 1920. His grandfather was born in 1860, at the beginning of the Civil War, into an America where slavery had yet to be abolished. And so, as I have sometimes thought about it, I dodged slavery by just 5 generations. To some, that's a long time. Then again, it really wasn't that long ago. Pop-Pop lived right in the middle of that not such a long time between slavery and me. He grew up in Culpeper, Virginia, only 70 miles from D.C., but light years away in terms of racial attitudes. The limitations that were placed on blacks didn't sit well with him, even when he was a young boy. Like many kids, he was just a bit rebellious, but a lot of white people might have called him a delinquent. One hot summer at the age of 13, he decided to jump into the public swimming pool, which of course was designated as whites only. He went ahead and swam in it anyway. Later, his father got a call from the authorities, who demanded that the family pay for the cost of draining the pool and refilling it with pure water. Before my grandfather reached his mid-teens, he moved from Culpeper to D.C. His parents didn't believe he'd live to see his 20s if they stayed in Culpeper, where on Saturday nights, Pop-Pop was able to see burning crosses in the distance, white people having fun on the weekend with their own brand of terrorism. A full 6 decades after the abolition of slavery, Pop-Pop's world still had separate toilets and drinking fountains for blacks and whites, a distinction validated by the separate but equal standard approved by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1896 in its landmark Plessy v. Ferguson decision. And as Pop-Pop became an adult, he faced limitations in the working world as well. He often told me that I could do whatever I set my mind on doing. But, he cautioned, understand that because you're black, there's always a ceiling. You can only go so far up the totem pole. He ran into that ceiling often enough in his life, I think, but he didn't seem to let it stop him. He served his country for several years in the Army, and though he never was sent overseas, he put in his time as a supply officer and was honorably discharged. Later, he got a job as a pressman in the government printing office, which became his main employment for much of his life until he retired in 1976. He also maintained a side job as a bartender, working at an officers' club in town and catering various events. Pop-Pop took pride in himself. He was 5'7", slender, and always well-dressed. He wore a handsome Kango hat, which was a variation on a beret, but with a wider brim. I think people back then dressed better than we do today, but Pop-Pop especially cared about his appearance. That went for his apartment, too. He kept it meticulously clean. To this day, when I smell Listerine, I think of the antiseptic smell of his place, and he maintained everything in neat order, with all his old people trinkets lined up and in their places. It was as if he had a plan for his life, was living it out, and was tracking his progress on the shelves in his apartment. He was popular. I remember him always knowing a lot of people while I was growing up. He was very social. Many people